Good morning. Good morning. Friends, we are gathered here on this morning, almost afternoon, to celebrate the life and the legacy of Lawrence William Samuels, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. We come today together here in grief, acknowledging our human loss. In pain, may we find comfort. In sorrow, hope. And in death, the promise of peace forevermore. The poet M. Maureen Killoran has written, "Our lives matter. We come together from the diversity of our grieving to gather in the warmth of this community, giving stubborn witness to our belief that in times of sadness, there is room for laughter. In times of darkness, there will always be light. May we hold fast to the conviction that what we do with our lives matters, and that a caring world is possible after all." Today, we give thanks for Larry's life among ours, for the good memories, the warm moments, the gracious gifts, and the love that was shared through Larry. We offer our gratitude and our joy. His life was a life that showed a caring world is possible after all. So today, we gather with one another with sadness in our hearts, with words aching to be spoken, questions aching to be answered, feelings aching to be expressed, hearts aching for love, with arms aching for embracing. We come with wounds aching to be healed, emptiness aching to be filled, and joy aching to overflow. So today, may love enter our spirits and our souls like a soothing balm, and leave relief where there was once an ache, so that all of us may say that we have met hope today, that we have met love today, and that everyone was touched today once more with goodness and with grace. Fact is, Larry probably would not have preferred that any of this would have to take place today. I'm certain that he'd still rather be here, among us, with us. But how honored I am certain that he'd be honored to see and to know how many people have come and have reached out because of his passing. The line out the door today, long line out the door today, is proof of that, and so much more is proof as well. So thank you, all of you, everyone who's come to honor the life that he lived. We do not want to forget the years that he gave his indomitable way, the goodness and the enduring love to everyone here. We don't want to forget that his life, what it's meant, what it will always mean to those of you who knew him best, those of you who love him, and who always will. This next bit of sacred poetry speaks of something eternal, something that is stronger than anything, everything else in this world. Its words speak of love, the only thing that really matters. I speak in the tongues of people and of angels, but have not love. I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Most importantly, love never ends. The only thing that endures above everything else in this world, it really is, it's love. It never ends. It is never taken away. Love consistently overcomes and conquers all the brokenness, all the distress, all the disappointment, all the disease, all the disability, and all the death in this world. When we feel as if we could break under the pain of loss and grief, we can be reminded today, in this time of grief and remembrance, that love is in this place today as you come together to understand and accept Larry's passing. In my years as a pastor, and now as the founder and leader of a nonprofit, someone to tell it to, that helps the world to learn how to listen to one another, to help us get along better and understand one another better. It has been my sacred privilege to hear countless stories of people's lives. Their joys, their sorrows, their hopes, their fears, their accomplishments, their regrets, their goodness, their flaws. And I love to tell those stories. There is so much richness and beauty in those stories. What a privilege it is to tell the goodness and breadth of Larry's story today as we remember the man who he was. We will hear a lot of love given and shown by Larry in so many ways. His life began in Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, in February 1943. He was the oldest son of Lawrence William Samples Sr. and Mildred Buckley Samples Anderson. He later became the older brother, Stephen. Unfortunately, their father died when Larry was just 13, which is an especially challenging age for a son to lose his father. He left their mother to raise the boys to adulthood so much on her own. But even though their roots were in the big city, prophetically, Larry worked on a horse farm on the Philadelphia main line, beginning at age 8. That was prophetic. Stephen worked there too. Larry graduated from Overbrook High School in the city, where he bragged that the great basketball player Wilt Chamberlain went to the same school. Larry also ran track for the school and was the only boy who was not a person of color to run track at his grade level. He attended Penn State for college on the University Park campus. For a short time, he was actually, I was impressed by this, a walk-on member of the football team. But the sport he then played throughout college, and the only was rugby, a team for which he always remained an avid supporter throughout his life. He met Anita, who was there, is that right, on a blind date? And they married in State College in 1965. A marriage of 58 years. Larry graduated in 1966 with a degree in animal science. After college, he went to work in veterinary practice until he was accepted at the University of Pennsylvania, where he received his doctorate in veterinary medicine in 1971. While he was still in school, their twins, Lori and Denise, were born. Eric followed them in the family just 2 weeks after Larry's graduation. I know that could not have been easy for either Larry or Anita during that time. After graduation, Larry and Anita and their small children moved to Oldie, Pennsylvania, not too far from here, where he worked in a mixed veterinary practice for 1 year. Following that year, they relocated here in Hummelstown for another mixed practice for a short while, before Larry decided to go on his own and work exclusively with large animals. That experience on that farm must have led him to that, such as horses and cows he worked with, as well as the more exotic animals at the region's Lake Tobias Wildlife Park. Larry was absolutely passionate about his profession. He loved it very much. He belonged to a lot of organizations that promoted animal welfare throughout his career. The U.S. and Pennsylvania Veterinary Associations, the Pennsylvania Holstein Association, American Association of Bovine Practitioners, the United States Department of Agriculture's Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, and others. Larry was so dedicated that the weather would not deter him if an animal was sick. He went out when and where he was needed to save an animal's life and a family's passion or their livelihood. Often, he refused payment for his services. Many times, was kind of paid with food, out of appreciation for the work that he did. He loved his many dogs. He frequently traveled with him on those calls, and ones that he responded to and was able to help others with. And after 50 or so years in practice, Larry concentrated his veterinary talents on exporting cattle, sheep, and goats to other countries. His life was a life of service. He was so community-minded as well, serving on the Hummelstown Recreation Board, the Overbrook High School Alumni Association, where he was a mentor to young students, and as a soccer coach, a passion of his, and as vice president of the Eastern Pennsylvania Soccer Association. He helped to develop the first professional indoor soccer team, the Hershey Impact. His community impact was always large. He also loved sports. Penn State, Philadelphia Eagles and Phillies, among others, and attended their games whenever he could. He loved to travel. Alaska and China fascinated him the most. He loved to talk. Obviously no surprise. Is anyone here? Love to talk about history and politics. I can only imagine what he has been saying. If he thought he was, I think this is probably no surprise, right about something, he would not hesitate to share that, and also go to the top of an organization to tell them how he felt about whatever they were doing that he probably didn't agree with. Right? But his greatest and most passionate love was with his family. Anita, Lori, Denise, Eric and Cindy, Caleb, Kristen, Liam, and Marshall were all so important to him. He always valued the time he shared together with you throughout your lives, your sports, your interests, your involvement in so many things. And Stephen and Carol and his nephews Stephen and Andrew and his wife Julie and Sammy, his much beloved dog, were also recipients of Larry's prodigious love. Larry loved his home. He was not interested in needing to go anywhere else to live. He loved it here. He was happy within himself and not caring to compare himself with what others had and what maybe he didn't. Larry was a man who was many things, many more than I can even recount today. And there are so many more things we all can remember and celebrate about his life today and in the days to come, and I hope that you will. As one final act of love and service, Larry's body has been donated for study for the advancement of healthcare education. It's pretty impressive, too. He is I know, certainly missed. But because of love, simply because of love, his life, his legacy, and his impact, it will never end. It will live on through you. It will live on through so many others whom he touched. And I'm grateful that I came to know Larry through Anita, who was a wonderful teacher in school for my son Matthew as he was growing up. I know that it's hard in so many ways to accept that Larry has left this life, that so much is different now. I know that when we leave this place today, it will be still hard to comprehend. There are no simple and easy answers at times like these. There are no simple and easy answers during times of loss. The best answer, perhaps the only answer that we need today or any day, is just to rely on love to get through this. To rely on the love of Larry that is still felt and always will be so strongly and profoundly today. And the love of one another that is so meaningful today. That's what everyone needs to get through such sad and painful times. That love, which is a sacred, enduring gift, that love which never ends, is the best answer to embrace and to hold on to. And maybe, just maybe in time, little by little, moment by moment, day by day, that love will begin to calm you, soothe you, wash over you, carry you, warm you, and finally heal you, and provide you with the answers and the comfort and the reassurance and the peace you need. That love is our best hope. It's actually our only hope. But that love never fails and never abandons us. As we are reminded today that love never ends, in this sad and difficult time, we can celebrate and we can give thanks for that. We can have the enduring hope that Larry is resting from his struggles, from his distress, resting in peace. And we can give thanks that he no longer has to endure pain or disappointment upon this earth. His legacy is now yours to share. His love is now yours to give. Larry's family wanted me to ask if there are any of you among us who would like to share a brief thought about the Larry you knew and are here to celebrate and remember today. So I just invite you, if you want to, take a few moments, if anyone wants to stand where you are and share what they can hear.
Can I come up?
Sure.
This is a little hard for me because Larry was like my brother. I met Larry in 1984. He became my dad. I think today, sharing stories, we die a death, but if we don't remember somebody by their stories, we die another death. So I thought, I flew back from Europe last night and I was thinking, what could I say about Larry? And I thought and thought and thought, and I said, the first thing I'd have to say, he was an animal lover. I hardly ever saw Larry and Joette when they didn't have Millie along, and I don't know all the other dogs that he had, but his dogs were always important to him. And some of the things that he did for my company has made us be in business now for 42 years. And I am very proud of our record. for transporting animals, and I'll get into that in a second. So when I think of Larry, I think of an animal lover, and I think of a lone wolf. Larry was a lone wolf, but he was a lone wolf who became the leader of the pack eventually. And some of the stories, the first time I met was down at the farm show grounds, and we had some animals for export there. Bill Nickel, which some of you know, was in his day and time at that place giving a show to all those that were listening, and Larry was trying to join in also. So they were going through all the things that they had to do an export, and one of the things Larry had to do to finish his export was to read the TV on a pen of heifers. And Larry, in his exuberance, jumped in the wrong pen and read the TV on the wrong heifers in front of the ABIC, which was the federal vet. And, you know, I will have to give Larry credit because he put his head down and acknowledged after he signed the paper he'd done wrong, you know. So the federal vet had to admonish him, and I don't know, maybe he got his accreditation jerk for a month or something like that. But that was the first knowledge of Larry. And the thing that I always admired about Larry, you know, no was not in his vocabulary if he thought he was right. And he was the perfect guy to go up against these regulators who really control most of our industry. In my little company and Larry together, you know, they asked me, how many health certificates did Larry write? I don't know, but thousands and thousands for me, for sure, over the years, 40 years. And some of the things that he did, I don't think anybody else could do, because Larry was up against opposition. He was the thorn in a lot of people's side. And, you know, they didn't like him too well for that. But in the end, if Larry thought he was right, he was right there. And some of the things that we did, when I first did my first export in 1979 on a shipload of cattle, of 1,000 animals, it took 1 week to inspect those animals. Why? Because we didn't have electronic tags, and every farm had to be represented by a health certificate, whether they had 1 animal or 100. So you can imagine 1,000 animals on a ship is a pasteboard box like this with those old 17-140s, Jack, you know, where you have to have a magnifying glass to read through them. And to change that, you had to go up against this so-called committee at APHIS at the USDA, and nobody knew who they were, but we all knew whatever we asked, the answer was no. So, you know, Larry being not taking no, we decided we were going to try to do something about that. And so some of the things that Larry came up with was herd of origin statements on a piece of paper outside a federal paper document, and it was sent around to the farmers, giving Larry permission to make all those statements in their behalf and sign his name on it. So what that allowed us to do was bring in maybe 100 different farms, maybe 1,000 animals, put them on one health certificate, and numericalize them, you know, with ear tags. So then we got down where we could inspect a ship in a day instead of a week. And today at $264 user fees, maybe higher, with 2 people, you can do the math, how many hours, you know, how much money that saved the exporter. I remember some other stories here that I'll try to be brief with. I know you said not take too long, but really some of these stories are great, you know. So I don't know if this is legend or lore, but I believe, being an animal geneticist, that, you know, the apple don't fall too far from the tree, and our upbringing, you know, has to do with our later experience in life. So, legend or lore, supposedly Larry grew up and was locked up on the streets of Philadelphia on a work release program. He was sent out to the DuPont stables, the Muffin stables, He got his interest, he went to Penn State, then he didn't have enough grades, I'm sure, to get into the University of Pennsylvania, since it's such a prestigious school. But Larry, being Larry, decides he's going down and have an appointment with the dean. And he did. And he said, what do I got to do to get into this damn place? And I'm sure the dean gave him probably a thesis of things he had to do. But you know what? Larry did it. And he showed back up 6 months, a year or two later, throwed the papers up on the dean's desk and said, let me into this damn place. And he got in. He got in. And so that kind of perseverance, that kind of dedication, you know, formed further in life, because the things that he did and the fights that we had. I remember I had a ship. Well, the first time was 1997. Unloaded the ship in Beirut, Lebanon, and by Tuesday we had foot and mouth. And I know you've heard about that, but very few people know that, because we haven't had foot and mouth in the United States in 1929, I think, Jack, the last time. Anyway, I sat in the quarantine and I could see a black cloud moving over my cabin. And I said, Lord, what am I going to do, you know? And everybody already said, oh, you bought these cattle from the United States for vesicular stomatitis, which is another disease that looks like foot and mouth disease. And, you know, I'm sitting there by myself, what am I going to do? So Larry, I called Larry. Larry said, I got the solution. I got a friend in Plum Island. Plum Island was the place that did all the research on foot and mouth for many countries around the world. Larry had made an arrangement that I could bring tissue to New York, unheard of, never been done before, in a box, and the feds would pick it up, take it to Plum Island. By the time the Lebanese put me in a room with all these politicians pointing their finger, not only did I know I didn't bring the vesicular stomatitis, I knew exactly. I had foot and mouth, I knew he'd already helped me, Jack, what do you, the species of the different forms of it was unique to Lebanon. And he proved that, and he got me out of trouble, just like that. And I guarantee you nobody else could even get the permit to bring it in. Larry did. I know a couple other times where we had problems with blue tongue and other things. Larry come up with Dr. James McLaughlin, supposedly the world's foremost authority on blue tongue. Jack, you know, I don't know where he got it from, but I met the guy, talked to the guy. We had problems with TB. Dr. Bob Meyer, USDA's top man on tuberculosis. Talked to him just the other day. I'm very, you know, well, Larry called him, he called me. So, you know, Larry is how do I say, as ordinary you might think he is. He's pretty sophisticated, he's a pretty smart guy. And we had a ship that went afloat, had an engine blow, had 1,200 pregnant heifers aboard, 24 souls. And when I signed the charter party, it makes me responsible. And she's afloat, and here comes Hurricane Sandy. So the guy calls what is called a general average, meaning I as a charter and he as the owner of the ship, insurance marry up together, and basically keeps my money for about 5 years until we get paid. So here I'm afloat, and we finally get a tug, and we start back, and here comes Hurricane Sandy. We had 20 days feed aboard, and we had generators, so we had airflow, the animals were fine, but the problem would have been if the rogue wave would come and the ship couldn't steer it, it would flip the ship and kill everyone. So Larry's part, he happened to be at the U.S. Animal Health Association meetings, and there his nemesis, I won't mention any names, Jack, John, who was Mr. No of the highest degree, who also didn't like Larry at all. I said, Larry, what are we going to do? We got to unload these animals. I'm going to get them back to Wilmington. He said, well, we got to get an import license. Nobody has ever imported animals like that back in the States. Once they go, they're gone. I don't know what Larry said, but I suppose he told John, we'll pull them up in front of Wilmington, shoot them all in front of the news media and see how you like that. But we got the import license, we unloaded the animals, we lost 2 animals who had jumped the fence and broken their legs. So, you know, things like that, it was hell to go through, but, you know, when you look back at who helped you get through that, you know, not many people have done that. And the last thing I want to share with you was a meeting with the Undersecretary of Agriculture down at USDA. I don't know if Lauren McCartney's still here. She was there. There was a bunch of us, and Larry was along, and I said, Larry, for God's sake, keep your mouth shut, sit down. Which, you know, was very hard for Larry to do, but that day he did. And we had gone over the top of the head vet's head on an issue where he was totally wrong. We were right, but he didn't like it because we called the politics out on him. So he proceeded to get up in the middle of our dissertation for 5 minutes and tell me what a crook Larry was and how Larry did this illegal, blah, 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 blah. And it was so bad, he made such an ass of himself that everybody, including the secretary, were checking the shoelaces. You know, nobody would say anything. So finally I said, you know, if Larry was about 10 feet close to this guy, we got his fist right inside his mouth, but Larry didn't do anything. And lo and behold, we got away, and everything was cool because the guy made such an ass of himself, you know. So one time Larry didn't make an ass of himself, and it worked. So anyway, I think 42 years that our association, we greatly, greatly miss. But I think, you know, there was a poet, and the poem is called Larson's Holstein Bull, believe it or not. And it's written by Jim Harrison, and I won't try to quote, I'm not a poet, but I'll paraphrase what it said. And it's about a young girl who cuts a short cut across the field from her school, and she gets gored and killed by a bull. And the story goes on to talk about how she was, you know, maybe somebody wouldn't even know about or anything, but yet the poet says, I remember her for 60 years. You know? So how do we remember Larry for his service, especially in our industry? So if I could, would you guys from the Livestock Exporters Association come forward to help me with this, please? I know some of you are here. Lance, where are you? Who else is here? Barack? Come on up. Oh, I forgot to tell you one story. I needed a vet. So, where's Steve? Levan, come on up here, Levan. And I needed some service, and we were out of your place, you know? And we were working with all your country folk there, rednecks from Dry Run. And the big one, Berkey.
Yes.
Berkey looks down the driveway and he says, what the hell? There's a dead wagon coming up to the... And Steve was coming with all of his tools and everything in a 72 Buick, was that? Hearse, yeah, Hearse. And Davey, the other wives, went in the back. Oh, I was going through a divorce at that time. And Davey in the back said, hey, Gordy, your wife sent a car for you. So fond memories. But, you know, Steve was a good hire. Probably ridden as many ships as anybody for us and for others. And, you know, the big deal, the last one we did together with the McCartneys was in 2020 before COVID. We sent 2,650 animals. They came from as far away as Idaho, Montana. They're put together in Middletown and Dry Run. They were put on on a ship floated to St. Petersburg for 14 days. I don't know if Steve was aboard or who was, but we put them on trucks and went across Russia for about 10 days to end up in Kazakhstan. And our vet, Dr. Kate Zima, was there, and the insurance claim after 30 days was £2. And those two didn't die. One had a bad eye, and the other had a bad leg. So, the things that we learned from Larry, how to prepare animals correctly, not to over-vaccinate them, do those kinds of things, have made us, who I'm very proud of what we have done in the animal thing. So, with that said, how about helping me here? Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, I'm never going to be the secretary.
Okay, so I'll set this up. Like I said, to never forget somebody is to have memories of them. And what a better way to have a permanent memory of Dr. Larry Samples in forming a foundation. This is a 501c3 or 3C or whatever. C3, okay. Which is tax deductible. So we're looking for your money. But basically, the Livestock Export Association also benefited not only TK, but all of us from Samples and things he's done and to make our business better. Dave, can you read? So,
No, I did keep, my eyes were sweating earlier. Yeah, I mean, I guess the purpose, we'll read that, there's other details to it, and there's some forms on the back table. But the purpose is to utilize knowledge, methods, and modern technology for the welfare of animals, education of the people, and the sustainability of the land that contributes to global food supply needs. And,
this was an idea we hatched back in 2018 with the Ministry of Agriculture in Kazakhstan. We signed an MOU to develop a demo farm and a place where we could send interns from the States, from different universities, and have seminars and an ongoing internship there to work with animals. And lo and behold, this year we have such a farm. It's in Cappadocia. Cappadocia, if you don't know, in Romans, in the Bible, it speaks about Paul's journey in Asia Minor. And Cappadocia is sort of central east Turkey. And what our idea is to bring animals there and send them out to all stands. So animals would be there for about 30 days, and it's a wonderful time to utilize this kind of thing there. And we hopefully, there are other things they can do with the foundation. That's just one thing. So.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to?
For those who don't know, I'm Larry's brother. This is difficult. The legacy of Larry, growing up, one quick story. He went to the same high school as I did. I came to it late. I was a couple years behind him. And so I would go into class the first day, and they would go through the roll, and they would tell who different people, your name, and they would get the samples, and they would look and they'd say, Samples, are you related to Larry Samples? And I said, yeah, this happens all the time. Yeah, that's me, I'm his younger brother. Well, let me tell you something. You do half the stuff that he's done in here, so I was always behind the 8 ball. Following my brother. My brother was a badass. And you can see it as he got older. He would argue. He was tenacious. He was wonderful. And there are more stories where that I was driving up here today, said if I stood in front of a bunch of people, what would my brother want me to say? And it would probably be, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagle!
Anyone else?
I was Larry's social friend through her wife, grew up on the same street in Pittsburgh. But I got dressed for Larry today because one of his loves was Penn State. This is a Penn State. All the fathers were. And then Larry was a solid Democrat, and I'm a solid Republican, so my tie has elephants on it. We're solid friends. And I just wanted to say how much I value this friendship.
Excuse me. I was a tester. Larry's at the veterinary school. I met him 57 years ago. And as everybody said, he was a force to be reckoned. Right from the get-go. We were the old guys and the married guys. So we got together. We lived, Millie and I lived in the medium. That dog was named after my wife, I swear to God. Larry always denied it, but I know he is that. And we took that medium train into the city all the time. It was amazing, 4 years, and like everybody said, Larry stood up. He had opinions, he let everybody know it. And if you wanted to discuss them, you could, but you didn't win too often. He was an opinionated son of a bitch. He would agree with that. He was just an amazing fellow. And knowing him, knowing Anita, and the whole family, it's been a pleasure. I miss him.
I'm staying right here. I have 2 sentences about Larry and his love of animals. They had a mouse in the garage and they set a trap. And when they went to get the trap, the mouse wasn't quite dead. So Larry had to euthanize it after he buried
I'm Christina Jala. I'm Larry's second granddaughter. And I currently attend Mosmo University, and as I go back in a couple of weeks, I'm kind of reminded of what happened last semester. And I'm a psychology student, and one of my classes is the fundamentals of statistics, and it's just as fun as it sounds. And one day, one of my least favorite professors conducted an experiment, and he went around the room, and he had them guess what the biggest fear was among the class. And then he had us write down our own personal biggest fear. And then once he calculated all the results, he looked around the class and he said, So it doesn't seem like deaf is the top on the list. It's only second to public speaking. And then he looked at us and he said, statistically, most of you would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. So I find myself in an interesting position. So I thought that was dumb, so I took it to my grandpa, and he always asked me how class was going. And when I presented him the statistic, he said, yeah, that sounds about right. And I was like, what? Do you rather die than give a little speech? And he was like, we all gotta do it. Always so straightforward, always no fear. I find it ironic that we're both experiencing our second biggest fear right now. But only a couple of months later after that conversation, I'm grateful that he was a father figure in my life. And he always taught me how to be brave, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him. I'm not like my Uncle Steve, who could come up here and start screaming. But I want to prepare a speech as I prepare all my speeches for class, and that's kind of just jotting down a bunch of bullet points and hoping the audience knows what I'm talking about. So the following is a list of things that remind me of my grandfather from the point of view of his granddaughter. Real milk. Real. Pocket knife. Rugby. Overbrook High School. Cows. Yanni. The colors forest green and navy for some reason. Chess. He taught me how to play. Abraham Lincoln, his favorite president. They were born on the same day. The 2:30 Cafe. 50s on 5. The World Cup. Oscar the Grouch. Farms. Penn State. We are! Penn State! The lamp he hung in the ceiling of my room. The platters. Being reliable. A provider. A friend. A brother. A husband. A father. And a hero. I feel lucky to have known such a well-rounded soul. And I'll never forget his bravery.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Smith. I'm up here because I want to thank Larry for his incredible, deep friendship, real friendship. And I also want to thank him for his very real, deep contribution to the foundation of Penn State's rugby club. He started, as I recall, at Penn State Rugby Club in the fall of 1963. That's about okay. Yeah, we go back, we're trying to recall all of these dates. I arrived at Penn State for graduate work from Cape Town in South Africa in March 1964. And I was ever so happy to find that they had rugby, because South Africa, fortunately, unfortunately, crazy people about rugby. And I started in the spring of 1964 at Penn State Rugby, met Larry and Anita at a picnic in the spring of 1964. And our friendship developed deeply and sincerely, lots of continuity. A couple of things I remember about Larry. I grew up in South Africa with all this crazy rugby stuff. Larry scored one of the finest tries in football. It's known as a touchdown. One of the finest tries I have ever seen. Cornell, fall, 1965. He caught the ball on our 25-yard line on the eastern side. And he ran up through people, through players, all the way up the western, northwestern corner, through players, bumped them off, etc., etc., at an incredible speed, and scored a touchdown in the northwestern corner. One of the finest I've ever seen. I remember Larry for that. There's another one. Larry graduated in the spring of '66. Penn State Rugby organized an exhibition at a college football game, one of our college football games, in the spring of 1967. No, fall, so sorry. In the fall of 1966. And we were privileged to exhibit at half time. All the players went, the football players went off, and we had an A and a B sign going against each other, just to demonstrate rugby to all of these Americans. And there were 15,000 people there. Larry had already graduated, but Larry came back to serve as a linesman for the team. And I remember this, first of all, because of his contribution, continued contribution to the rugby club. And I also remember him very, very specifically, this is 100 years ago, for he was dressed, grey pants, like so, blazer, tie, as a linesman, and his badge, the emblem, the rugby emblem. And that was the first emblem we had. I brought it, it's at the back of it, you can take a look if you want to. I just remember it, this commitment to everything of Penn State rugby. The emblem has been changed, but there it is. Another one, spring of 1966. Rugby, no, just put it the other way around. American football is similar to rugby. In fact, it's derived at the University of Princeton. Derived from rugby. They have backs and they have forwards. Larry played in the backs, who are the people most commonly scored all of the touchdowns. And in the spring of 1966 was the first semester in which we had 3 trophies, awards. The best forward, the best back, and the most improved player. Larry was awarded the best back. Now in general, and this is so important, my friendship with Larry and Anita has just gone on and on and on, and Larry's commitment is a strong, sincere, deep commitment to everything with which he was involved. Our reunions, Larry and Anita, every year, yes indeed, you can expect them to be there. And thank them so much for that. God bless her, that dearest friend of mine, Larry Samples. whom I shall miss forever and ever, you are. God bless you. Love you so much.
A lot of talk about the man Mr. Samples was, and he's still Mr. Samples to me. I can't call him Larry, like you saw him as a child. Throughout the 1970s, Mrs. Samples' house was my second home, and Larry was my second father. So I want to tell you just a quick thing. What I love about him and what I still hold to this day is that he taught me so much about what it was to be a man. In a world full of weak men, he was neither weak-willed nor weak-bodied. Eric, one time we went on a run with your dad, and they were, I don't know what it was, you probably know what it is. There were these things that, in my mind, they're about the size of a fist. They're like warts. He was cutting them off the cow. The cow took a kick at him and missed. And he cold-cocked that cow. And it like, and then it stood still for the rest of the procedure. It taught me the importance of being strong physically. And then, well, then the bull chased him. He jumped over the fence. So he taught me the importance of being agile. And then one of the years, he was coaching us in soccer, and I can't remember, Denise, if it was the year you and I were teamed together and we were on the back line, but I had this real bad habit of whenever there'd be like a scrum of people around the ball, I'd jump in the air, and every time, of course, the ball went under my feet. Jenkins! Stop jumping! Over and over again. So we were playing out on my field, right in high school, and we jumped into one of those things, and the kid kicked the ball. It was a clean kick, but it caught me right between the legs. Knocked the wind out of me, and they took me off, put me on the bench, and after about 5 minutes I recovered. I was too angry. I said, put me back in. And he looked at me, because he'd seen me fail over and over again, but I don't know, maybe he thought that moment was different. He put me back in. And I was so mad for the rest of the first half, I forgot to jump when I got in the middle of the scrum. I went after it. I went after the ball, I went after the people, I was into it. And as I'm coming in for the halftime whistle, he goes, Jenkins, I'm going to kick you in the balls every game. He taught me, looking back, I know why I jumped. I jumped because I was afraid of getting kicked. And he taught me that pain is part of the journey. And you get stronger by going through the pain, not around it. And the last time I saw Mr. Samples, we were at whatever the name of the new diner is down on the south end of town, the little 50s place. Thank you. We were talking, and I told him what I was going to be doing in my life, and this collar was like the last thing anyone ever expected, including me. And I remembered back when we were kids, his mother had gone through a real bad thing with where she'd given a lot of money away to a shyster ministry kind of thing. And he said, well, I said, you'll make plenty of money doing that. And I said, Mr. Samples, I won't, because I'm going to be an honest man. And I really appreciate it. I've tried to bring into my own profession the integrity I saw him exercise as a young man. And so he was a huge influence on me for that, and I want to thank him for it.
Is there anyone else?
I'm
Kayla Ajala. I am the oldest grandchild. I just want to start by saying thank you all for coming. I think it was like the second night when Grandpa was in and out of the hospital. When he first went in, it's like the second night walking into his Uncle Steve came down and he looked up at Steve and he said, "Well, really nice to know that people give a shit about you." And clearly they do. I think I was telling Grandma, I said, it would be more than an hour. I knew it was going to be a turnout, and it is, and I'm so thankful. And I know he's watching, and he's just so grateful. As my sister said, Grandpa was very much a father figure to us. Our parents split up when we were very young, and we moved right in with our grandparents, and they bought our house, and ever since then, he's just always been the one we go to for all the advice and anything. Dad with donuts, whether he's just there for the donuts. He was so loyal and always so present, and especially, you guys know I'm a basketball player. Everyone knows me as that, and he's always there for all of our games, and he's just always there. If Grandpa wasn't there, it was strange. And I remember, as far as him loving animals, not so much, he'd always take my sister and I on his little journeys. A lot of you said used to remember seeing us, we were this big, going to the farms and different things. He'd always tag us along, and I remember, I don't know, it couldn't have been maybe like the commercial. I don't remember exactly which zoo it was, but he took me with, I remember it was maybe 4. I have a memory of this. We were in, he was speaking with whoever was working, we were in with the monkeys. The monkey was in the cage before going in on my cookie, okay? I dropped it. I go to pick it up. The monkey swoops down with its tail. Took it. Grandpa just laughed and laughed and laughed. Never replaced my cookie. I brought that up to him often. And I think it's a core memory I have of him, and just his love for animals and different things. Like I said, he was always there for my basketball tournaments and games and things. One year we went to North Carolina for a tournament. My mom had just had gallbladder surgery. She couldn't go. So my grandpa was just me and Grandpa. He drove me the whole way. On the way back, and I had my driver's permit. I was driving 90 miles straight. I look over. I'm too afraid to touch the radio, which is playing 40s hits. He wakes up, he listens to what the hell is on this radio? What is that playing? I listened to it the whole time. Okay, I was not listening back. He did wake up. No crash. We were on it. We made it. He was just really special, and I don't really know how to put that in words. You know, he's just always been so great. He helped raise us. And my grandma, the whole family, they were just the best. And I'm so grateful everyone's here, and I'm so grateful to be part of a family like this and to have people that love and support us so much. So thank you.
For those that don't know who I am, I'm young Larry. So, and I've been called baby by my sisters a lot of times, and so I probably will cry a little bit like I'm doing now. I just want to thank everybody here, everybody that was lined up down the street, out the door, around the block, wherever you were. This is, if you ask who Larry Samples is, this is Larry Samples. But just to share, I was thinking about who my dad is. If those of you who don't know, I'm in animal health. I sell to veterinarians. He's extremely proud of me for that, I think. He would call me for the littlest thing. Someone came up earlier and said, your dad would call because I needed it. And the simple thing, he would just go on and text me or call in or go online. He said to me one time, I don't want to call. I want to talk to you.
from you. I want to hear your voice. He said that to me, and I never forgot that. Who was my dad? Exports. Talking about, one of the funniest things I remember is, I don't know, it's 1984, or when it was, but my dad had to make a point with senators in Harrisburg. So, not always the most difficult kind of guy. He kind of said he was very proud of what he did and he wanted to make a point. So we went out working that morning. We were at the Holstein farm, or we were in Halifax or somewhere, and we were in Manure, probably about 8 deep. And we had our boots on, and as you know, that are in the farming business, you have your boots, and we spurred them off, and we'd walk to the state capitol on the way home. What are we doing here, Dad? I might have been like 12 or something. And he said, well, we gotta go talk to some people. All right, well, I'm in a t-shirt and a baseball hat and a pair of jeans and kitty boots, and everything else. He says, leave that one, come on, let's go. So he comes in looking like that too, and we go in, and once you know, we get directed to the main, when you watch at the Capitol, like the big debates and things, that main hall, the rotunda, yeah. We sat down at a table, looking like we did, smelling like we did. He used to come home and Mom would say, boy, you smell like this. Dad said, you smell like, And we sat down with these guys, and they were looking like me, looking like Mr. Gingrich, looking like everybody here, like, who's this guy? And my dad, he was making a point that the farmers need this, the people need this, this is the business we're in, we're all not dressed up like everybody else, but we have a purpose here, and that was his point. Son of a gun, he didn't get things solved when he did that. I'll never forget that story. That was unbelievable to me. Other things, just being with my dad in God knows where, Pennsylvania, in the middle of a barn, doing a twisted stomach. For those who don't know, you got a twisted stomach in a cow, you got to turn them over, you open them up, it's a surgery. Me and Dad in a barn with other cows sniffing around what's going on, just talking about girls and life and school and politics and the Philadelphia Eagles and Penn State. Just me and him, just talking. My best memories. One of my best memories, and who is this guy? This is something that kind of, I think about it now. My dad would go and do herd checks. For those of you who don't know, you go and do a herd check and you make sure the cows are pregnant or whatever the case may be. So the Amish would all be in some area of Halifax or Millerstown. So he'd start at one farm in the morning and we'd go on to the next farm to the next farm. Well, the little Amish kids heard that Larry was on his way. These little kids in their straw hats, and they were jumping out. I think I told Steve this story earlier. They were jumping out of the hay mounds, out of the pond, out of the cows, everywhere. They were coming out everywhere, out of the cornfields to see Larry, to see the vet. Doc's here, Doc's here. His dad would give them each something to carry. It was the smallest thing. You carry the rope, you carry the syringe. You put their hats on. He'd say, "Hey, who's your girlfriend?" And they'd all tattle on each other. And they came from miles away to see Larry. The guys were on their horse and buggies with their kids because Doc was there. And that's just kind of who he was. If you were in his life, you were important to him. And I like to think I have a lot of him in me. Some things, hopefully not so much, but we were in Germany at the World Cup. So, we went to Germany in 2006. Dad and I went to Germany together. Of course, he lost his passport. I like to think he probably lost it on purpose. So we had to go to the U.S. Embassy in Berlin. And my dad starts spouting off how he knows Arlen Specter, call Arlen Specter. Arlen Specter gets this figured out. It's Friday at 4 o'clock or something in Germany, and we're supposed to call Arlen Specter to try to get his passport. That's who Dad was. Gordon was telling the stories. That's who Dad was. He wasn't going to take no for an answer, but for everything, for everything that Dad was, I wouldn't change it for the world. It made me who I am. Sorry, Cindy. Who they are. And I want to, everyone says when people pass, they impacted people so much. I really do believe Dad impacted everybody for the best. And I thank you all for coming.
Hi, I'm Lori, I'm the oldest, by 3 minutes. much. I just want to thank everybody for coming and everybody who's always support, especially my work family. It's been rough, but every time I would go and see him at the hospital in the room, he'd say, "This is my daughter, she's the nurse." They all knew me. "This is my daughter, she's the nurse." She was so proud. He's so proud of all of us. And I know that. Mom's proud too. So, sorry, I'm trying. But anyhow, but yeah, he's bigger than life. I guess we just kind of thought that nothing would ever happen to him. And when it did, I'm just glad that we were there. We were there.
I am Denise, I'm the youngest daughter. As you all know, Dad was a big Eagles fan. And Eric, myself, and my dad, we would trips for Eagles games and stuff. And every time we go through security, and he acted like he didn't know what he was doing. And first to say something about a pocket knife, every time. And then he explained that he's a vet, and well, they didn't care. They wanted to go through security. And my dad, like Eric and I, we waited. We get through security, and my dad was like, it was a belt buckle and everything else. And it's like, Dad, you know this every time. I'm gonna miss getting together and watching the games. He would say the same thing every time. You gotta wrap them up. You gotta wrap them. Da-da-da-da-da. Or the Phillies. I love the Phillies. I'm glad they're doing so well. But you play small ball, you know. And he was wonderful. He helped me with my girls. He loved them so much. He lit up every time we talked about it. And I loved them so much. And thank you for being here.
I'll be brief. I am a fellow veterinarian, and I can't follow the other people that talk here. But I remember the first time I met Larry as I was driving here today, I thought about it. He was bigger than life because as we always went, Larry always went for the free dinner to the drug meetings. But it was 22 years ago. It was at Wonderful Wanda's in Mechanicsburg, and there had to be 65 vets in the room. And here comes this tall, statured man across the room, puts his hand out, shakes my hand, and introduces himself. And I introduced myself. And his next line was, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I had never met him before, but he knew me. And that started a work relationship for 20-some years that was amazing. Eric is my drug rep too, so he's part of my work family as well. But Larry he didn't know everybody and anybody in agriculture, I swear in the whole world, and definitely in the US. And we would have lunch dates about every 6 to 8 weeks, and it never failed. His phone would ring, he'd be like, "Oh, this is Senator so-and-so, I should probably take this one." So, and then his phone would ring and he'd say, "I don't like that guy, I'll push the button, I can talk to him." And he would just crack me up. But he was the only person, as a fellow Lord General vet, I could call and bounce things off of. And likewise, he would call me. And he'd call me one day and he's like, "I thought I killed a horse." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I thought I killed a horse with an injection." He said, but the son of a gun, after he explained to the people that it must have had a reaction, popped up 10 minutes later and ran off through the field. So there really was a purpose to his story because we discussed what we thought might go wrong. And this occurred all the time. We could bounce things off. It could be 8:30 at night, and you knew that Larry would answer the phone if you called and you had a question. And when Eric called me when he was first in the hospital this time, I was away, and he said, "Did you hear about Dad?" And I said, "No." So I called him the next day, and he said, what do you call me for? He said, everybody in my phone's called me in the last 3 days. So I said, well, I said to him, I said, that's how important you are to everybody. And so he will definitely be missed. So I might just have to call Eric now. When I think of calling Larry, I might just have to call Eric and see what he thinks. So, but definitely one of the biggest people in the veterinary business and agriculture. And he practiced. He's one of the old timers that we don't have anymore. No offense, my younger associates, many are in the room, but everybody's taught how to run tests. And Larry and I got a lot of Larry in me in the fact that we always had to practice common sense medicine. Because when you're standing in front of a farmer, they want an answer and they want an answer then. And they're okay if you don't know, but if you don't explain to them what's going on, they just think you're part of the ivory tower and you walk away. But our clients and Larry's clients, and a lot of them are here today, truly become part of our bigger family, and it'll be great to miss.
I said too many things at their house. He always was super welcoming, and he was also a father figure to me growing up. Even when he was cheering against me because I went to Hershey. A decision on my mom's part, yes. But I just am so thankful for him welcoming me into your family, and you guys also allowed me to be here. Big heart. Appreciate it.
I'm from Halifax, and I was a 4-H leader for 21 years. So I just basically want to thank Dr. Samples and the family. I know he was never at your place. He couldn't be. He was always at our place. And we're very small, homegrown. You know, I have like 4 acres. We're on a kid even call it a mini farm. Okay, but he was always there every time my horse needed him. Anytime 4-H kid needed him at a fair, he was always there. So thank you.
I want to thank you all for the stories you've told, for the love that you shared, for the funny things, and for the touching things as well. Thank you. I want to close with this, one last bit of poetry by the poet Robert G. Ingersoll. This is the silent haven, a thinker of pure thoughts, a speaker of brave words, a doer of generous deeds, has reached the silent haven that all the dead have reached, and where the voyage of every life must end. And we, his friends, who even now are hastening after him, are meant to do the last kind acts that man do for man, to tell his virtues and to lay with tenderness and tears his ashes in the sacred place of rest and peace. So now, may we all go from this place with love